Joining me today, we have Greg Eiler. He's the manager of learning design at Lululemon. And without further ado, Greg, I will let you take it away.
Hey, thanks, Stephanie. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I can't see your faces, but hopefully you're out there somewhere. And I was thinking last night, I had this first slide kind of prepared and thinking about what I wanted to talk about. And then I decided to change the whole thing this morning because something came to mind that really I think resonates with this story, what we're going to talk about today, which is just a little bit of background. My father was a chemist, he was an engineer, now he's a mechanic. And I think the things that all those things have in common is either things work or they don't. You know, when you put a key in a car, you turn it on and it either works or it doesn't. And chemistry, the same thing. He was telling me, either the formulas worked or they didn't. And in engineering, big machines, again, turn it on and it works or it doesn't. And he really loved that world. And it reminded me that we don't work in that world a lot of times. We work in the gray. And it's very difficult sometimes to figure out when our stuff is working. I talk to my team all the time about how difficult that is. You know, you could say, well, our training really did help people. We could say, did it? We don't know. Did they learn the stuff from a friend or did they learn the stuff from our programs? Our training didn't work. Well, really, did they hire the right people? Did they have the right skills, right competencies? We just don't know a lot of times. And in my time here, I've realized we don't really do a great job in going back and seeing what works and seeing what doesn't. And so this is just something I've learned over the years. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about my background. And it's something that came to mind last night is how much we work in the gray. So we're going to talk a little bit today about how to work best in the gray. And it's really around some design thinking strategies. This is not a design thinking class. I stole all of these ideas from smarter people that do it better than I do. So I'm just going to share with you the things that have worked for me. So you can go ahead and go on, Stephanie. Next slide. All right. So a little bit about myself. So my name is Greg Eiler. I work for Lululemon right now. They're a Canadian-based company, some of the most wonderful people I've ever worked with. And I've been an instructional designer, a consultant, a performance improvement consultant, got a master's degree in instructional design and technology. And I've been doing this for about 20 years now. And my group specifically is responsible for onboarding all the people everywhere at Lululemon, mostly in our retail stores. So think about 10,000 people that are constantly being hired, constantly moving around, constantly having to learn new things. And we're trying to do that globally. Now, I put the people on my team next to this on this slide, Brenna, Courtney, Taylor, Jill, and Ben, because they're really the ones day in and day out that are trying to get all this stuff right. Now, my job here is to just try to help them make decisions, help guide, and really try to hedge our bets and say, hey, let's go try this and see what happens. The best I can do is just tell them about all the mistakes that I've made in the past and where I think we may be making some similar mistakes. So if you're out there, peeps, sending you some love. Thank you for helping me throughout this whole year, build some of our programs and kind of get better at this craft of what we call kind of some design thinking. And I say design thinking because about, I would say about 5-6 years ago, just by chance, it was an offsite that I went to, and the boss that I had at the time, it was one of the workshops we all went to. It was a design thinking workshop where we actually had to make these little things out of tongue depressors and rubber bands and construction paper and do all these things. And a light bulb went off for me in a couple ways. One was just this idea of prototyping, which was something that I had never really contemplated before. And I thought, why don't we try the stuff that we build, we make, we design, we whatever you want to call it? Why don't we try that stuff in smaller batches before we launch it to the world? Because up to that point, we would go back to our shops, we would use the ADDIE model or whatever model you're using these days. We'd build our stuff, we'd launch it, and we'd kind of walk away and move on to the next thing. And I don't know that was always the best way to do things. So this idea of prototyping kind of came to light for me. The other piece that really seemed to come to light for me was when you're doing design thinking. Just so if you guys don't know where it comes from, there's a group out of San Francisco called IDEO, and there are probably others before them, and they are really good at going in and looking at a problem and using some design thinking methods to figure out how to solve the problem, how to come up with a solution, and then they prototype their way to that solution. And the other thing that came to mind for me is I didn't feel like I was always solving the problem that I was asked to solve. Yes, sometimes I was being asked to build training. And okay, well, the problem I was trying to solve was one for my boss. My boss needed training built. Or there was some other thing that I was trying to do, but what was the actual problem I was trying to solve? And in a lot of these design thinking sessions or workshops that you take, that's really what you're doing. That's why you're prototyping, because you're building something, a little widget, a cup, or whatever it may be, and you put it in front of the people that are going to use it, and you watch them use it, and that's your feedback. Their use is your feedback. They're not telling you what they think. They're not, filling out surveys or smiley sheets or anything like that. They're picking this thing up and drinking out of it. And if it spills on the front of their shirt, hey, that didn't work very well. Maybe we need to make the hole a little smaller. That whole concept really resonated with me. It was kind of I don't want to call it an epiphany and make it all dramatic, but it was a moment where I thought, I wonder if there's a way we could bring in some of this design thinking into my work. So I used to sit around a desk with this wonderful, just great person in our field named Peter Voltaggio. And Peter and I would talk about these things and just say, hey, is there a way that we could do things better? And it was hard because our industry and the work that we do is got its formula, it's got its methods, it's got its schools, and so we all kind of do things the same way. It's hard to break out of some of those things, especially when we don't have enough time, we don't have enough resources, we're an afterthought for a lot of people. So we talked about some of those things. Let's fast forward to what my job is today, or I should say this group of practitioners that I put up here, what their job is. We've got two huge markets. One of them is in North America, and that one is an established, mature market. It's been up and going and makes a ton of money, and we've got the process down, right? The other one is Asia. That's a growing market. And that's a market in which a lot of people don't even know what our brand is yet. They don't know what Lululemon is. And the thought that we would build training the same for both when both of those markets are so different kind of blows my mind. We have a centrally located training group, sits here in North America, and we are trying to build things and design things for a global group where each local market is absolutely 100% different. It doesn't make any sense that we would try to do that. Now there's certain fundamental things that are the same. There are certain baseline things, foundational things that may be the same, but we don't know. We don't know. So this year we've really been challenging ourselves to think about how do we serve both those markets? Where do you hedge? Do you continue to dump your resources into a market that's fully established like North America? Do you move some of those resources or a lot of those resources over to this growing market? And the question is, we don't know. And I think that's where we're getting a whole lot better at, is saying we don't know. We're doing the best that we can. We got a bunch of really smart people in the room, but we don't know. So let's go find out. We want to help though. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that today. Go ahead, Stephanie, you can move on. Okay. If you're like me, you come to these things because you're hoping to steal a couple ideas, see how you can incorporate them into your work, maybe, rip off a couple formulas or worksheets or whatever it may be and go, hey, I've got this great idea. And I used to do it so I would sound real smart in rooms and stuff like that. Here are three things that I want to leave you guys with today. And I would encourage you to just think about it at first, go do your own research on it, get a hold of any of those practitioners that I put up there. They can speak to you. I'm offering them up now. They don't know this, so I'm sorry, team. But if you want to learn more about these things, you can hit us up. So here are the three things I want you to do. Think about the problem you're actually solving. What is the problem you're actually solving? And I'm going to challenge you here in a little bit to see if it's actually the right problem. The other one is break your prototypes, not your programs. I'll say that again. Break your prototypes, not your programs. Once your programs leave your shop or leave your door, they're gone. Break the stuff before it leaves. And then the last thing is look. Don't listen. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about each one of those. So clarify the problem you're solving, break your prototypes, not your programs. Look, don't listen. If you haven't written those things down, please write them down just for yourself. Okay, so let's talk about number one, clarifying the problem you're solving. Too often we build programs that work for small groups of people, right? This is just how it is. Or we're trying to build something that works for everybody, like we talked about. Let me share with you an anecdote because I think this will get to it. Somebody comes to me with training and says, we need a bunch of training for our new LMS that's going up. Great. I go out there and I build the training and we put all that stuff up there. And at the end of the quarter, we find out that the VP of our group, really what he wanted was he wanted all the courses to be live on the LMS, right? And this actually happened to me once. We were hustling for an entire year trying to get all this stuff right, get all these courses right. We were saying all the right things here. Are we thinking about the learner? Are we thinking about the user? Blah, blah, blah. All my VP cared about was getting the stuff up on our LMS. That's what his KPI was. That's what his bonus was going to be based on. That was the reward he was looking at. So when things broke on that LMS, he got really upset. And I remember taking my team into a room and drawn it out for them and say, let's remember what his biggest priority is. It's the LMS, right? It's not the user. The problem we're solving is his problem. It's not the user's problem at this point. And that matters a lot of times. Think about this. You have a stakeholder that comes to you and says, I need. Sometimes you just need to get it out to get it to that stakeholder, right? I used to do this thing when I was idealistic and young and dumb in my career. And I would tell people all about the learner. I would tell them all that I'd learned in grad school. I would tell them about all the formulas, all these reasons why they couldn't do that, how the brain works. I used to say things like that. You want to know how the brain works? And the person would just look at me like, I don't care how the brain works. I need this thing by next Friday. The problem was theirs that I was trying to solve, not the users. Now, there were times when I had different people that said, we really have a performance problem. Can you help me solve this performance problem? Of course we can. Of course we can. And part of that is to help you understand and see that the thing we're going to build isn't going to solve your problem. It's only part of the solution. Training is often only part of the solution. And having that conversation and going back and forth and being a consultant. A lot of times we'll let our ideas get in the way. We let other people's ideas get in the way. We let somebody come into the room who's the most vocal person that says, I've got an idea, or you know what I heard, or I just got some feedback, and they give you feedback from one person, or you know how I may have done it this way, I may have done it that way. We get that a lot. And one of the things I think my entire team's getting better at is we're learning to really hone in on what the actual problem is so we can come up with the right solution. And that's made a huge difference in the way that we work. Going to breaking prototypes, not programs. And I think, going off script here a little bit, people, I think the way I want to describe this to you is kind of tell you a story about somebody I met. This is years ago. And this person was responsible for creating a product for a shoe. And he came up to me and he was talking to him. We were doing an interview, doing a video with him at some point. He had a box, and inside this box, he had all these components, and he dumped them all out, and every one of them was broken. And he said to me, you know what these are? And I, yeah, they look like pieces of a shoe. And he goes, no, these are all failures. These are all failures. They're all broken. It's like there was like 96 of them or something like this. We tried each one of these on the same person, same conditions, and we were looking for certain results. Every single one of them broke. And that was cool. We love when things break. We kind of lit up, and I remember looking at him thinking, what are we talking about here? And he says, when something breaks, we know what to fix. And I'll say that again. When something breaks, we know what to fix. And I remember just looking at him and said, that's one of the biggest differences between what you do and what I do. We don't let things break. And when they do, it's usually too late. We've launched it, we've sent it out into the world or whatever, and then people tell us it's broken. Yeah, after we just spent hundreds of $1,000s on translations and launching it and branding packages and all this stuff. You don't want to find out that things are broken at that point. You want to break your prototypes. You want to break the stuff that really doesn't matter. And you want to get good at doing that in pieces, which is kind of what we do right now. We build things in pieces. And we call it chunking. And I'll talk about this in a little bit and some of the solutions that we came up with how we do this. But we found a way that works for us to chunk things out and build small pieces, try out those pieces. We're not perfect at it. We haven't been able to try out all of them or break all of them, but we're getting better. And at least our mindset has shifted. There's something also about the mentality of being in beta, constant beta. Google Mail, Gmail was in beta for 5 years and it worked in year 1, but they just kept it up in beta. And part of that was to make sure all of us knew that it was a work in progress, to give them forgiveness, to have some empathy and allow them to make it a better product. Well, we're starting to see our own work that way. Say, hey, this is a work in progress. It is not going to be perfect. We're working as we go. We're going to break stuff along the way so that we eventually get to something that works for you, the user, or whomever needs it the most. And let's go to the last one. Look, don't listen. This quite simply is, I'm going to throw this out to my team there. We get feedback all week long. Everybody's an armchair quarterback on a Monday, right? When you deliver something or a program, they will always get back to you and say, well, I heard this, or what I would have done is that, or have you guys thought about this? Or from what I read, the learner is like this now, or they love to throw out stuff about learning styles and what they know about this and our attention span and all that stuff. And our eyes just, we listen, but our eyes glaze over a little bit. It's like, we know, we're just in a different mindset right now. Yeah, we love you, we trust you, we know you're trying to help, but until we actually see the results and see how people are using our stuff, it's all just feedback. It's just words and opinions. The last thing we need more of right now are words. We need more actions. We need to see what's going on. And so for us, that means we got to go out there and see how people are using our stuff. And that's next on our agenda for this next year or two is let's go see how people are actually using our stuff. So I can pause there if anybody's got any questions, or Stephanie, we're going to the next slide.
I don't think we have any questions right now, so I will go to the next slide.
Great. All right, let's talk about our role a little bit more, because this will give you guys some context. So I talked to you about the challenges of having global responsibilities. At the same time, we lack in resources just like everybody else does. So we're using limited resources to build a one-size-fits-all solutions for global market, right? Build onboarding for a global market. And that's tough. That's tough. I would ask you guys, where would you hedge your bets? Would you build stuff for the growing market, or do you build stuff for the mature market? And that's what we are constantly up against. Now, the thing that I'll remind everybody about, now, including myself, most of my team were English speakers. We sit in North America. Our culture is North American. The way we work is North American. We work remotely, which means something, and we're building onboarding programs for people that don't work remotely. Um, we are not always resourced to do the work. That's why we've partnered with ELBs, because we have to call them at the 11th hour and say we need X amount of people to help us pull this thing off, and they jump in and say, yeah, we're good to go. I mean, that's our world, right? That's everybody's world right now. So there's no way we can build a one size fits all solution. The problem that my North America leader wants is different than the problem that my China leader wants. So, for example, North America is established and they want people to sell more. And the way they want them to sell more is through what they call guest experience. Good customer service. Go talk to the people that come into the shop and talk to them about our products. Make sure they feel welcomed. Make sure they feel at home, things like that. In China, they don't know much about us. And so onboarding for them, what that means is, hey, when you get here, we want you to feel like you belong. We want you to have fun with your peers and your other coworkers. We want you to spend a week going off and doing social things with them, because that's really what we need. We need you guys to love this company so you can go be ambassadors for this company. They're growing by opening stores, not by selling more products to an individual person. Those are two completely different problems that we are trying to solve. And so we have to break those things down and figure out how to do that. And then the other thing I want to talk about as far as our role, and I think this is really important, at least it's been important to us, we want to evolve. And it's not only for, personal growth, professional growth, things like that, but our company's evolving. The way they're working is evolving. Our CEO is announcing great ideas all the time, and he's getting out there and trying different things all the time. We need to evolve and grow with them, with that company. We need to do things differently. We can't continue to rely upon a new technology or some silver bullet that somebody's calling us about. We need to find different ways of working and solving the problems that our businesses are having. Now, I've heard this past 20 years, solve the problems of your business, but I think we're actually to a point where we're getting much better at that, and it's taken a while to get there. You can go ahead and move on, Stephanie. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how we do the work. Here's how the sausage gets made. And again, this is not a design thinking course. These are some of the components of it. I would recommend you guys go on IDEO's website. They actually have an entire workbook if you guys want to do this yourself. Download it and start trying it. So I'll give you an onboarding example. So we were charged with building onboarding for all of our retail people all over the world. What does that look like? What's the process we go through? Well, first of all, we get everybody into a room and we come up with a big idea. Now, when I say everybody, I mean the people that matter. So we have our designers. We usually have a graphic designer in there or somebody very creative that can help us think big. We have stakeholders in there. Training 101, people, get your stakeholder in there or the person that could kibosh your idea from day one. So we get those people in there, and it could be multiple stakeholders. We want to bring in people that actually work in the field. That's like, nah, that's not going to work. That'll never work. You can't do that. So that's usually the first step. At this point, democracy does matter. One of the things that you'll start to spin on is, which idea do we go with? Have everybody vote, put the idea together, mash them together if you need to, and go with that one. It doesn't matter, because remember, it doesn't matter what you think. It only matters what people do with the thing that you guys are building. So get it built so you can get out there quickly. It doesn't matter which idea it is. Try this one. If it doesn't work, then pivot, switch. The other thing that happened for us, and I'll just kind of jump to the punchline here, which is we landed on something that we call Lego blocks, and which is, the second bullet is build chunks. We decided that we needed to figure out a way to build small chunks of content that you could put together independently, which meant they can either stand on their own or you could put them together as an entire program or parts of a program. That way, in North America, if you wanted parts A, B, C, and D, you could put those together. But over in Asia, if you wanted parts A and D, you could put those together as well. So that's where we landed. And there are a couple design things that we needed to look at, which was, one of them was style guide. They all need to look like they live together. One of them was time. Make sure that they're in 5, 10, 15, 20-minute chunks, relatively. So when you put these things together, they all equal an hour or they land on the quarter of an hour. That's kind of where we landed, was in these chunks. So we build those big chunks and then we go out there and we prototype. Now, what I mean by prototype in our world was a couple people on my team put together these great maps and these great tools, and then they went and they shared it with our markets. It said, can you please go and share it with your people and get us feedback? We couldn't travel. We couldn't go over and do those things. So this is during COVID. We had to rely on them saying, yes, this will work and this won't. But we did that work up front. We didn't even build anything at this point. And a couple people on my team are always reminding me, building something here and translating it is not the same as building something that will work for somebody overseas. The translation piece is not providing a solution to people. It's just translating the North America one. So we needed to go over and we needed to build those things for them. We got their feedback. We listened. And at this point, we're treating them as partners. Tell us it's working. Tell us it's not. Tweak, tweak, tweak. More like this? Yes, no. Turn to the left, turn to the right. Fine. More like this? No, pivot a little more. Like this? Yes, that's what we're really talking about. And at times was, here, you get the tools. You go tweak it how you want, and then you send it back to us when it looks right to you. And that's kind of where we're at right now with a lot of our markets. They send it back, then we do our work. Now, one of the questions I've had in the past is when you hand over that responsibility to so many people like that, you kind of lose a lot of the design integrity or all the things that we love to think of as, instructional design or performance improvement, stuff like that. And that's not really the case. We work hard to manage those relationships so that we can work with them. And if we see a solution come in, we can look at them at that point and say, in my experience, I don't think this is going to work because this, or I've seen something over here that you may want to consider, or I know what you're after. So how about trying this? We're acting more as a consultant and a partner at that point, where before it was, give us your stuff, your content, tell us what you want, and then go away. And we're going to build it and then translate it, and it's going to be the perfect solution for you. And then you're going to tell us why it doesn't work. That used to be the way that we would do it. So we're trying to switch that out. We revise a lot. We are on a schedule now where we're revising things, every quarter, biannually, annually. It's something we're figuring out. This is actually the next formula we're trying to discover for ourselves, is what does that revision cycle look like? How do we get better at that? Which revisions are actually needed? And I was telling you guys a little bit about feedback. What's hearsay? Well, we think it needs to change. Why? Well, so-and-so said. Who is so-and-so? Well, there's somebody that worked in my store. So you're giving me a data sample of one. How about a data sample of at least 100? Can you get us that? Well, can you just change it? Well, how about we go and we really find out? And usually what happens is when we start to dig deeper at that revision point, we find out it's usually not a training solution. It's a performance improvement solution. It's motivation. It's something operational. It's something in the system. Maybe there's noise. Maybe they don't have the bandwidth or whatever it may be, the time to do some of those things. So that's what we do. And then we repeat this process. We just keep going through these things until we get, 75, 80% there. And I'm making that number up. It's not a real number. But until we get close and say, okay, run with this for 6 months and let us know how it's working. And then we'll go out there, and we have a couple of people that offer that say, hey, I'm going to be at a local store. I'm going to be over in Asia. Do you want me to go look in? Yes. Go see how things are working. Like, go see, let us know what you see. Don't get feedback. Maybe fine if you want to talk to people and stuff, but go tell us what you see, because that's really what we're most interested in. So that's how we're working right now. Now, I've got this line that's kind of on the bottom of the slide here that says sell the idea to your stakeholders and users. What that means is there's really two parts to doing this work. And the other part was us working with our stakeholders and our users and our learning partners, everybody really in the organization, to let them know this is how we work now. And sometimes that can land with a thud. Sometimes people come to you and say, I just want the thing. And they're not interested in prototyping. They're not interested in a half-baked solution. They just want the thing. They just want it translated. Can you send it over? Well, this is just my opinion. Yeah, we can, and that's a waste of money. And I think I'm here to be a steward of the organization. I don't want to waste their money. I think that's why they pay me, is to make sure, one of the reasons why they pay me is to make sure we're not wasting money. And it's going to waste money. So let's try it this other way. And we've had to really work with our learning partners and our stakeholders, and we're not there yet. I would say we're maybe halfway there, to get them to start to think about training in this way and think of us as partners and consultants, and they're really trying to hone in on the right problem. They don't like the answer sometimes, especially when you say training's not the solution. They don't want to hear it. When you say, so the problem I'm solving is the one you're having right now. It's not a training problem. It's your problem. They don't want to hear that. And you would say it with tact, and hopefully I do say it with a little more tact than that. But they don't want to hear it. But they need to. If we're going to be a steward of their business, help them solve their problems, we need to get them on board. And so that's really what we've been doing. Now, one of the things I don't have in the deck here, but I've got it in my notes, which is something I think worth writing down. And I don't want it to sound harsh, but one of the things I tell my team a lot is, and I believe this about myself, we don't matter. We really don't. The user matters. When somebody gives me feedback, it's like, they don't matter either. The user matters. And people don't like to hear that. But I don't mean you, the person, don't matter, but your feedback doesn't. The only thing that matters is the action. The only thing that matters is what the users are doing. The stakeholders, maybe depending on the stripes on their arm, right? The people giving you feedback, the store managers, the people up and down the training chain, they don't matter. What matters is the user at the end of the day. If you're trying to solve their problem, they're the ones that matter. Okay. You can move on, Stephanie. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to start bringing this thing home here. I know I've been talking a lot, probably more rambling than talking. I want to talk to you about some of the benefits that we've seen in working this way. Now, keep in mind, I think we've been working this way in some way. We didn't reinvent the wheel here, but we've really been putting this into our decks and telling this story for probably about 2 years now. And there have been some big benefits, which has gotten me excited. So I'm like, I think we're onto something, at least where we work. It may not work this way everywhere else, but at least where we're at. One of them is we're starting to build better partnerships. And what I mean by that is our learning partners are starting to react differently to us. And they're starting to see us as partners in trying to solve their problems. Many times they would come to us and tell us about their problem, and we'd hit them over the head with our solution. And you'd see the frustration in their eyes. And many times it was, you're not listening to me. That's not the problem I have. I need this or this. So it's taken us some time and practice to figure out how to hone in on what their real problem is. And we're starting to build those partnerships, which is working great in another way. They're starting to trust us more when we say, I don't think it's training, or have you looked at, is anybody giving the people the right feedback and coaching them along the way? Do people have the bandwidth? Do they have the mental capacity to get through some of these things? Did they have the right tools and the resources that we've built? Did you even give it to them at the right place and time? And they're starting to listen a whole lot more to those things, which I'm sure a lot of you have said in the past when it just kind of falls on deaf ears. They're starting to listen a whole lot better. In that exchange, we're finding better solutions. I like to think, and I'll look to my team. I can't see them right now, but I'll ask them when I get back, did I make that part up, or are we actually starting to see better solutions? Are we starting to see things that are a little bit more applicable to the workplace that can actually be used in the workplace with the way it's designed now and the way it's operating right now? Are we getting the right results? Are we looking at the right data? Are we getting out there and seeing people? How are they reacting to our stuff? Are we seeing the stuff that we want to see? Do we feel like we're actually making a difference? Don't care what you call us, training people, performance improving people, don't care. Are we good partners to our business, and not only to our business, but helping people on the floor, which is where we need to live. We are learning to trust actions, not words, and I keep talking about this a lot. So we're starting to get out there and look at what's going on. I've got a great learning partner, and she just recently came on, and I think one of the first things she did for the entire week was she got out there to see what was happening, and then she came back and said, "Here's what I saw," and it was music to my ears. It's like, "Thank you, tell us what you saw," and we can react to that. We can help build better things. We've got all the tools in our toolkit. Trust me, people, we've got every single tool. We don't need another technologist or another technology, I should say, with a bunch of features in it to solve our problems. We've got everything we need. We just haven't been solving the right problems. So I think we're getting better at that. And people are learning to trust us, and we're learning to trust those actions. And we are evolving as a training team. Now, how do I know? Well, my team's talking differently about the things that they're trying to solve. They're pulling up a whole lot more and saying, this isn't feeling right. They may not always know why. I may not always know why, but our intuition's getting better. It's saying this is probably not us. It's probably something else. And when people get back to us and they say, we need something to change, one of the first questions we ask is why? Tell us why. Tell us what we need to know about that. What did you see? What did you experience? We're seeing a lot of the language that we use, prototyping, experimenting, things being in beta. We're seeing that kind of seep into some of our cultural speak, some of our newsletter stuff and items. I've heard my VP, my director use that same language. This is great. This is great. We're all aligned, I think, and they were probably saying it before, and maybe now we're just listening and finally lining up to what they wanted the whole time. So we're evolving as a training team, and each day we're talking more and more about what it means to be a consultant, right? It's really changing the game. And Stephanie, you can move on to the next one. And sorry for the cutoff here, guys. And I think I spoke a little bit about this already. This is the bonus. We're changing the training culture from one that builds programs to one that builds solutions and things and stuff that people can use when they need it and how they want to use it. And we're solving problems on the floor, in our stores, in North America. And now we're getting after Asia next. And we're, EMEA is a great partner. We'll go after them as well and try to solve some of their problems also. All right, so wrapping up. Next slide, Stephanie, if you got one. Here are the three takeaways, and it's really just a repeat of what I said in the beginning. And I would really challenge you guys to see how much you can do this if you're not already doing it. I could be preaching to the choir here, and if so, then it's nice to be amongst my peeps. Clarify the problem you're solving before you build a solution. So when somebody comes to you and says, we need a training for this, I may ask, and do it better than I'm going to do it. Why? Why do you need that? What needs to stay the same rather than what needs to change? Because there's a good chance that not that much needs to change. Tell me a little bit about what you're seeing. What's happening right now. Not what you think. Tell me what you're actually seeing happen. Whose problem is this? Is it your KPI, your OKR, your responsibility, the thing that you're going to be held up against at the end of the year? Is it something you're trying to get off your desk? Is somebody breathing fire down your throat? Whose problem am I solving here? Because I can help you with that.
All right, everybody. It looks like Greg is frozen. Yes, I think that Greg had some internet problems. I know. I'm seeing the feedback in the chat. Well, until Greg can come back, I'm going to jump to his last slide and I will thank his team on his behalf. And we were pretty much at the end. I know he wanted to kind of reiterate a little bit more about the break prototypes, not programs. But until he returns, thank you to Greg and his team. I know in his last slide, he really wanted to kind of remind everybody that his team is the boots on the ground. They're the people doing this work. They are crucial to this kind of change in learning culture at Lululemon. Okay, Greg, you're back. You are muted.
Sorry about that, everybody. I just get kicked out. So hopefully, I'm glad we were at the end there. So thank you for showing that last one. This slide, I wanted to throw it up there because these are all the people on my team I wanted to thank. They're helping me with this work. I'm not sitting back here doing it by myself. They're really doing most of the work. I hope they don't mind me putting their names up here. If you guys have any interest in some of these things and how we're kind of going about this, it's a messy process. These are great people to talk to. Connect with them on LinkedIn and talk to them. I'm sure they'd be happy to help. And if they're not happy to help, they'll just point you right back to me and I'll be happy to help. So we'll do that. And that's it for me. Do you want to jump into some questions here, Stephanie? How do you want to do it?
All right, everybody, if you have questions for Greg, this is your opportunity. I know a lot of times we get in webinars like these, we get questions about like how to get stakeholder buy-in. I think you've covered that really well and talking about the change in culture and all of that. Let's see, we're getting a lot of comments saying thank you. This has been great information. Everyone's really enjoyed this so far. Remember, if you do have questions, you can type those in the Q&A panel or in the live chat. I'm watching both of them. Otherwise, we'll give you a couple more minutes. And if we don't have any questions, we can end early. Greg can get back to his vacation because he did join us for this webinar from his vacation, which we appreciate so much. Let's see, are you using the chunk approach for everything you do now?
Yes, we are. And it's taken a couple years to get there. If you think about it, when people usually contact you, they want a training solution. And where we needed to start was continue to provide them with those solutions, and then on the kind of at the same time start building out your chunks so that a year from now, 2 years from now, you get a bunch of chunks that we could put together. One of the things that was kind of driving that for us is we have a learning management system. People can access that system from anywhere at any time. And so how do we chunk things onto that LMS so they can use those? The next place we're probably going to go with this is get better at those chunks and say, okay, if I'm sitting in the field somewhere and I want to put this one together with this one, do they marry well? Do they really work together? Do they have we use a show to apply practice methodology around here. Do they cover show to apply practice the whole time? When you put these different chunks together, because when you're running as fast as we have the past couple of years, I should say all the people here, it's scrappy. It's not great, but at least we have the mindset of these chunks, and this team is getting really, really good at it. And that's their first thought is, how do we chunk this rather than how do we build a program?
Awesome. Sherry says, it's like putting together a complete Lululemon outfit, building a wardrobe that truly fits.
It's exactly like that. We use a different metaphor, but it's exactly like that. Taking the stuff away that you really don't need, figured out what stays the same, and then making sure that they all work together. Because what that's allowed us to do is we can go to our learning partners, say, here's 15 things you can use. You decide what you want to use. Now, we'll say when you do that, the shift is, and you own the accountability. You own the results now, not us. You don't get to come back to us and tell us it didn't work, because we gave you everything you needed. You put it all together. It's on you. And we don't do it in a mean spirit, but we can go to them and now partner with them differently in that way.
We have a question from Michelle. Have you thought about a content management system, or does the LMS function well enough?
Michelle, we have an LMS now. We've had it for probably a year and a half. We're not even at a content management system yet. And I think it's a good idea. I've been at this for a long time, and I hope I don't offend anybody. I'm not a big fan of LMSs or content management systems. They're big, they're bulky. Um, for me, it's more about, hey, if a note card will do just as well as a big old e-learning that needs to live in an LMS, print the note card. Yeah, and I know it's oversimplifying things, but no, we haven't. That's probably something we need to look into. If you have any recommendations on one that absolutely blew you away, let us know. That's one of the other problems is we sit through a lot of presentations on a lot of different technology, and we're kind of seeing the same thing over and over and over right now. They're feature rich, but they don't have a lot of benefits with the way we're working.
Great response. All right, it looks like those are all the questions. Whenever I say that, though, another one pops up, so I have to give it a minute. We'll see. But I think that this has been really great. We've received many thank yous saying what great practical information this was. Someone says avoid Oracle. So no suggestions on ones that blew them away, but the opposite. I think people always can tell you what LMS they didn't like.
Yeah, and Sarah, that's usually what we hear too. It's not go use this one, it's usually avoid these. And I think the entire list is full now of all the different vendors out there.
No, we do have a shout out for Skillsoft.
Top Precipia. Okay, we'll look into it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, Greg, for taking the time out of your vacation to present this to us. We really appreciate it. And the recording will go out via email tomorrow. Everyone can keep an eye out for that. Share it with your colleagues and transform your learning culture.
Yeah. Thanks for your patience and kindness, everyone.